Hello everybody, it's Melanie from Mel's Inky Fingers and I am here to share this beautiful card with you today. This is amazing as we come into our fall crafting time of year right now. This card is really easy. It would be easy to make a lot of them quickly if you needed to. And it uses the beautiful Gathering Moments stamp and die bundle. Now this bundle can be found in my online store as an online exclusive, and it has some really unique dies because we have these nice big focal point leaves with beautiful accessory dies that coordinate with them to put the decorative holes in the leaves, which you can leave as is, or you could use these little holes to add little gems or stitching to elevate your project even more. So we are going to make just a really simple card today using just this stamp set. Now this is a distinctive style stamp set, so you get beautifully detailed images. So aren't those pretty? Now we are just going to use this nice big leaf here with the veining on it to create this quick and easy card. So let me show you how to do this. So I have two different cards to show you here, and the difference between them is that I use a different embossing folder to add the texture. So this is the exposed brick 3D embossing folder, which is really cool. We've had this one for a little while. And then I have this brand new one called Gathering Leaves. Now, this is a coordinating embossing folder that goes with the Gathering Moments stamp and die set. This is part of the Gathering Together suite. And again, this can be found in my online store. And we're going to use this one today and stick with the suite so that you can see how beautiful the products coordinate together. So let me show you what you need to get started to create this card. So we're going to dive into some fall colors and use some Very Vanilla. So you're going to want 3 bigger pieces of Very Vanilla. 2 of them are going to be the same size, and these are 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then this piece is 3 3/4 by 5. So again, 2 pieces that are 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then 1 piece that is 3 3/4 by 5. Now, if you are one of my Creatively Inked subscribers, you are going to receive this project as the completed project in your kit this month so that you have a beautiful card ready to share, but this will also be included in your tutorial so that you can make more of them if you would like. Now, the other cardstock you're going to want is a card base, and I'm using Timid Tiger, which is one of our newer in colors, and this is cut 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. So this is just a standard card base. So we're going to burnish this well along that 4 1/4 inch fold, and then you will want a 1/2 inch strip of Very Vanilla to stamp your sentiment on, and this particular strip is about 2.5 by a little more than 1/2. So you can adjust the size based on the sentiment that you're using. I will be using this Thankful for You sentiment out of the Gathering Moments stamp set. So my Very Vanilla piece is actually about 1/2 by 2.5, and we will use the whole thing and leave it that size. All right, so now this card has some beautiful fall colors in it, and you can pull in whatever ink colors you have on hand, but let me share with you the colors that I'm going to be using to create this particular card. So let me get the colors in the right direction for you. I have 2 greens, so I'm going to be using Mossy Meadow and Old Olive. The red is Real Red. You could pull in Poppy Parade, you could pull in Cherry Cobbler. Then the yellow is Crushed Curry. Then we have Timid Tiger, and then Basic Beige. So here are the colors we're using, and we're going to be changing our inks a lot, but again, this is easy to use. Then for the stamps, I'm going to be using this bigger leaf. I'm also going to be using this little kind of dot, and then the Thankful for You sentiment. I have those all on blocks and ready to go. So let's start by doing our stamping. Now, after we stamp, we're going to add the texture to this front layer by running it through our Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine with an embossing folder. And that's where I'm going to pull in that beautiful Gathering Leaves embossing folder to add that really pretty fall foliage detail on this card. All right, so let's start by pulling out our stamp, and then we're going to start by using our Mossy Meadow. So In order to get these lined up, I'm going to start with the middle leaf and then work out to the edges. So I'm going to start with the green, and it can be either mossy meadow or old olive. I guess it doesn't really matter. Now, when you stamp with the distinctive style stamps, it's really important to have an ink pad that's a little on the drier side. So what I like to do is I like to take this nice smooth rounded corner of my block, and I like to just pull the ink out of the way so that I have a pad that's a little bit on the dry side. And then I'm going to stamp my image, and I'm going to stamp this in the center, but I'm going to stamp it upside down and kind of angled a little bit. And when you pull that ink out of the way and you have a drier stamp, the detail for that distinctive image starts to come out, so you get the depth that's meant to be in the image of the stamp. And then I just simply wipe this off with my Stamp and Chamois, and I'm ready to go. So now I'm going to start bringing in my other colors, and I'm going to work my way across this card front with repeatedly stamping this leaf image. So on all my colors, I'm going to just pull that color out of the way, and then I'm going to stamp my leaf. And they overlap a little bit, and that's fine. Once you get all your colors on, you will see how it just blends beautifully. So now let's go to our red. So again, I'm using real red. You can choose Poppy Parade. You can choose Cherry Cobbler would be beautiful. So any red you have on hand that you like in your fall color palette. You could even pull in Cajun Crazy. That would be pretty if you like that fall orangey color. So now let's start working in the other direction. So let's pull out our Timid Tiger. And I'm kind of looking through my camera, so I'm hoping I get this lined up okay. It's a little tricky when you're not right over your card to line things up, but you can see how all these colors are coming together and our images are popping. So one last color. This is our Crushed Curry. We'll pull that color out of the way, ink this up, and then I'm going to stamp this one like that. All right, so those are all the nice fall colors we're going to pull onto our card. So now let's add just a little bit of background detail. So I'm going to bring in my basic beige, and I'm going to use this little detail stamp here that you could use whether you want to add it onto your leaves or you want to just create some background. I'm just creating a little bit of background detail. And I'm turning this in different directions because you can see it kind of has a little linear pattern, or you can make it a little horizontal pattern or stamp it at an angle. I just kind of changed the orientation and stamped it in a few places on my card. So I overlapped the leaves a little bit. I did it 3 times. So that is the stamping that we're going to put on our main layer. So now I'm going to add the texture. So I'm going to bring in my Gathering Leaves embossing folder, and I'm going to put this in here. Now you want to feel your embossing folder and decide if you want your embossing to be raised, which is embossed, or if you want it to be indented, which will be the debossed. And then make sure that you've put your cardstock in the appropriate manner, okay? So I'm just going to use this little line that Stampin' Up! Provides for us on the embossing folders to line things up. I'm just going to put my layer there so that I know it's lined up, and now I'm going to run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine to add the texture. Okay, so I've just used my main base plate and then my plate number 4 for my 3D embossing folder. And here is the beautiful layer that I now have. Isn't that gorgeous? So let's take a closer look here. I'm going to put this up nice and close so you can see where the leaves overlap, how it almost creates another color. Really, really beautiful. So now what's next is just simply to put these layers together. So let's create our card front. The first thing we're going to do is layer our Very Vanilla on our Very Vanilla. So we have our textured piece that's going to layer on a non-textured piece, and then this is going to go on our card front. So let's put a little Stampin' Seal on here, and then we're just going to simply center this on the bigger layer, and then this whole thing is going to go on our card front. So this is cut so that you have a very small border around the edge. So you can use either your Tombow liquid glue, or you can use some Stampin' Seal. Now your Tombow liquid glue gives you a little bit of time to kind of move your layer and get it positioned exactly how you want it. So when I use Stampin' Seal, I put my layer so that I can see 3 sides of it. And if these 3 sides are all equal, usually this piece winds up okay. That edge winds up okay as well. So there we go. So there's our card front. It's coming along nicely. So now we have our sentiment. So now we're going to pull in this little piece here that we're going to stamp our sentiment on. And this is our piece that's about a 1/2 inch by about 2.5 inches. So depending on what sentiment you're using, you may need to change up the size of your sentiment piece. If you want the bigger Many Thanks, or if you want one of the much bigger Your Friendship Means the World to Me, but I'm going to use this little guy. Thankful for you. I love that. And I love that we have this pop of red on here. That's one of my favorite fall colors. And so I'm going to use that for my sentiment. So I'm just simply going to ink this, and then I'm going to line this up, and hopefully I'm going to slide it down here so that I can try to look through the camera to get this even for you. So we'll hopefully get it straight. And if you don't like it, you can flip it over. That's the beauty. 2 sides to every piece of paper. That's much better. Okay. So that's our sentiment. So let's put our ink away before we do something we don't mean to with it. So now we're going to adhere this to our card front, but before we do that, I'm going to trim the ends. So on this card, I just kept it simple and I trimmed the ends at an angle. You could choose to do banners. You could choose to do one banner and leave the other edge straight. It's up to you. But I'm just going to stick with the angled and not make it complicated, but just trim both my edges there. Now, if you want to, you can take this and put it in your trimmer and trim this a little tighter to the words if you want, but I'm good with this. All right, so remember we restamped that. So we have our words on both sides. So I'm going to put a couple of dimensionals on this, and I'm not going to put it right over here on the edge because I'm going to slide a little bit of linen thread underneath there. And I'm looking, and I think I forgot to put my linen thread in my bin here. I hope not. Let me look. I did forget it. So we're going to take, so that I can show you what I did, we're going to just take a piece from underneath here just so I can show you. All right, so I just took linen thread. So this is almost like a scrap room staple. I think I use this a ton, and I tied a bow. And then I'm just going to put this on a little glue dot. Now when I'm using twine or linen thread, I really like to adhere it with a glue dot, but the glue dots can be a lot bigger than the knot. And I want to make sure that this does not stick out beyond that to get stuck on the inside of my envelope. So I always cut my glue dot in half, and then I take my half glue dot and fold it in half again. So you're really using it as like a quarter. I don't think the camera will zoom in on that. But then I can take and put that knot right on there. And now it stays behind there, and there's not too much that sticks out around it that's going to stick on other things. So I'm just going to scoop this up, and I'm going to slide it under the edge here. with my pokey end of my Take Your Pick tool. And that's our beautiful and simple card front. So now let's move to the inside of our project. So we're going to carry this design to the inside of our project by using this second layer. This is the same size as the larger layer on the front. So it's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So it's going to take up most of our inside. And we're just going to do a little simple stamping in the corner so that we have lots of space to write a note to our recipient. So let's go to our inks again. And I think I'm going to put a green leaf on the inside. You can choose whichever one you want. You can see that the ink is still moved on the ink pad. It hasn't kind of gone back to its space yet. So I'm not going to move the ink again. I'm just going to ink this up, and then I'm going to stamp it nicely down in that corner. You can see that's some beautiful image from the distinctive style. And then I'm going to take this little stamp here, and I'm going to pull my basic beige ink again and add a little detail around it. And this just carries that front design into the inside of my card. So that it matches. I like to have that design pulled through. So I will always pick a design element from the front of the card and then place it inside. So let's put a little bit of stamp and seal on this and then place this inside our card. So this is, again, it's a really tight border, but it looks beautiful when it's in place. So there's our card. So this is a very simple card to make. I hope you try it. Here are the some more to look at. You can use any embossing folder you would like. So I hope you give this card a try and enjoy creating now that our fall season is here. Thanks for watching.